Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 44 of the Office Hours podcast. In today's episode, we have a new guest. Her name is Geetika, and she just graduated from BCIT, which is the school that I used to go to. And we talk about her experiences there and maybe a little bit about my experiences there and what it's like to be a fresh grad, what it's like to do internships, the stress of going through immense amount of schoolwork and potential aspirations for bachelors and all the other things of that nature. I hope you're gonna enjoy what's about to follow, and let's get on with it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 44 of the Office Hours podcast. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Geetika, and she just recently graduated from the British Columbia Institute of Technology, my alma mater, from the Computer Systems Technology program, which was also my program a bunch of years back. And it's interesting to get a perspective of a fresh grad who just got in the industry. So we're just gonna talk about that. And Geetika, if you don't mind, maybe introducing yourself briefly with anything that you might want to add.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. Like Silly said, I recently graduated from BCIT, from the CST program. I specialized in data communications and internet working. And I've done a couple internships in between, and I'm going to be doing the bachelor's degree as well at BCIT starting in September.
Awesome. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I recently kind of had a similar conversation with Mo about like his journey through the university and like his steps towards bachelor's and potentially master's and PhD and all that. And I'm just curious because I think I briefly considered doing the bachelor's program at BCIT. You could kind of upgrade your diploma and go. How
Mhm.
long is it now? Is it like a year and a half, or is it also two
It's still
years?
a year and a half. Yeah, it's about the same as CST. You do 4 semesters, so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not that bad. Yeah.
Right, right. And then I was already in the industry, and I kind of thought like, well, taking off a year and a half, and what would bachelor give me at this point? I wasn't exactly quite sure. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of opted out of not doing that. So I'm always interested to kind of learn the reasoning of people who decided to go for it. But maybe we can start a little bit further back at the beginning. And I was just gonna ask you, what made you interested, I guess, in computer science in general?
Um, so I really went blind from high school because, we're all very ambitious when we're young and we don't know what to do. All I knew was it was either this or it was sciences or it was technology, something amongst those two lines. And I knew it couldn't be anything medical related because I can't deal with that type of stuff. So it had to be tech. So, and even before BCIT, I actually spent a year at SFU doing computer engineering. And like I said, I went in blind. I had no idea what I was going into, but I did know I didn't want to do hardware.
Mhm.
That was what SFU was focusing on. And, one thing happened after another. And by fluke, I got into BCIT's CST program. And that's sort of when I had the mindset that I knew I wanted to do more software related stuff. And yeah, that was sort of my stepping stone into
Nice.
CST.
Yeah, very
Hmm.
very cool. I kind of did CST. Like I had computers as a hobby, and
Hmm.
CST seemed like a natural progression from there. And I think I probably mentioned this on a podcast, but it was so packed with stuff and so intense that I literally don't remember my 2 years at BCIT pretty much at all. I'm just like blanking out.
I know, they just go by so fast. And like at least, like you had an interest within computing when you went in. For me, it was just this seems like the only feasible option. So it was like all of a sudden all of this stuff that they were teaching us, half of it went by one ear and went in the other. And it took me a while to grasp all the information that they were giving. And by my fourth term, I was like, okay, now I understand this to an extent.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I always use the metaphor of drinking from a fire hose. It's just the pressure of information that's coming at you is just massive, and it's really sink or swim. So I wonder, because first year was like a lot of theoretical stuff and like some Pascal and some Java and some assembly for
Hmm.
microcontrollers. And then the second year is where things kind of picked up with, doing projects. Kind of, we had a project where you kind of get to pick your own language. You can use whatever frameworks and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I imagine back then there wasn't such a big emphasis on web. So I'm wondering if
Mm-hmm.
there's now like a bigger emphasis on web.
There is, and like you said, there's like more projects in your third and fourth semester. So we had that ISSP project where like industry sponsored projects and everything as well. And we're sort of given a bunch to choose from as a team. But even within the majority, they were mostly all web based.
Hmm.
So like even things that customers or clients were giving to us were web based, and then even the options, their projects are relatively web-based as well. Most of them. I don't think my option was that web-based just because of the whole, specialization and stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely growing.
Yeah, yeah. I think our special like our industry project had something to do with like mobile surveillance, and we still used hardware and we're like trying to get it going. I don't even remember how much we finished. All of these projects, I remember them being quite ambitious, but
Hmm.
once you start implementing, because you have no experience in even trying to understand what the scope is gonna be like, you kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, we can totally do it. And then however many weeks you get allotted for it go by, you're like, oh my God, we haven't done anything.
Yeah, I know. I think for ours, we were given this massive, massive code base, and then they told us to do like the task was very small, but just understanding how to do it took us weeks,
Hmm.
and then just conferring with the client back and forth. Yeah, it was a whole process.
Right. I guess you get maybe these days a little bit more exposure to like project management sides of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we do. I think it also depends on like the type of teammates you get and then the types of roles that you just have to take on. Sometimes I was really unfortunate with this where I had to take on most of the lead. My very first project, I think in term two, like in between term 2 and 3, we have to do this 5 week thing. I had two team members and oh, it
Just
was
no help.
there was no help. And then the customers were really happy about like how I was able to coordinate and everything. But it was just like me trying to lead these two people blindly that didn't want to do anything.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's a little bit unfortunate that this happens because you kind of get graded as a team, but
Mm-hmm.
then the contribution of effort is very, very unbalanced a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I said, and then BCIT is known for its group projects, so like you see it throughout your entire program that you do. But yeah, if you're paired with a good team and everyone actually puts in the effort, it's amazing. Otherwise, yeah, you have to get the mark you want by working for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Which I guess, you know what? I mean, they say that they offer experience that is very, very close to the industry, and in that aspect, it's not wrong because you get all kinds of teammates potentially at your job, and so it could happen. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, that's real. You're gonna have somebody who's like not contributing too much, or like you have to do a lot of their work, or like fix their work, or something like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But it is a learning experience. I feel like those situations made me understand the stuff that we're doing a little bit more. Like, desperation is the mother of necessity and everything.
exactly.
So, it worked out in my favor at the end,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it was not a good thing to go through, I think you could say. Like, it was not my happy place. I would have really liked a better team, but that's besides the point. Like sometimes there were like really good times where
Hmm.
I was paired with friends and everything, and we got through projects way faster than we expected
Yeah,
and
yeah.
with very good quality.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that I mean, it is definitely uncomfortable to be in that situation. And because I guess if you're stuck at a job and you have options and you just dislike your team, maybe you can like move laterally within your
Mm-hmm.
organization to a different team that works better. Or if the whole thing pisses you off, you can just maybe like quit and look for something else. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it's not like, oh, I don't like working for BCIT as an institution, so I'm gonna switch to SFU and just like transfer everything over and just continue where I left off. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
work. So you just have to tough it out and stick with it and build the skills. But it also gives you the ability to identify that situation sooner. It's like, oh, that guy is not gonna do anything, is he? Right? You kind of can
Yeah,
tell after
exactly.
after a while. You can tell. So it's not that it's not useful, but it is kind of annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you get up to any extracurriculars while there?
I was president for the Women in Computing Club for 2 years. Like the entire 2 years, I did my diploma. Well, I
Mm.
guess not term one because I just got into BCIT. But yeah, that was a whole different level of stress sometimes, and but it was like a lot of fun as well because when we started out, that club was barely able to get 13 people for virtual events. And then now, like by the time I left it, we've had to like enlist like wait lists and everything because there's so many
Hmm.
people wanting to come to our events. And it just took a lot of coordination with like BCIT staff, sponsor companies, the students and everything. And yeah, but it was a really great experience. And like whenever I've done interviews and stuff and they always ask, oh, is what's something you want to talk about that's not on your resume? I'm like, my club. I put in like blood, sweat, and tears for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe it should be on your resume because it's a unique kind of experience, organizational and like, wrangling people and herding cats and all that. So did,
Yeah, but then there's that one page thing, and then I just don't have the space.
yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Did you have to like pass it off to somebody else when you were done?
Yeah, I mean, my exec teams kept changing every semester, but then one of my very good friends now, she was the social media designer in the club, and it was just because our VP wasn't doing anything, so she sort of stepped up to that role unofficially, and then I handed off everything to her, and it's been going great. From what I've heard, the events are doing really well as well. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice. If you go for your, or rather when you go for your bachelor's, do you think you're gonna continue doing that in any capacity?
Maybe not the same club, just because I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm dominating the entire
Right.
thing. Yeah, but I do want to do another, like, participate in another club in an executive role because it felt like a great way to network. And like all these people that I've met in the tech industry, there's like, I mean, of course, there's people at BCIT, but it's like so condensed. And then when I do these events, I'm able to meet people from other schools, from other companies. It just felt like a great way to network and everything. And especially if you're part of the exec team, you have more say with these people than you would as a person who's just attending the event
Mm-hmm.
from the school.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Networking, I think it's a must. Uh, as an anecdote, I found most of my jobs usually through some connections through like various meetups where you talk to people face to face.
I
Uh,
think,
yeah,
yeah. I think it's I was talking to a couple friends and they were like, you're basically right now, I mean, I'm not saying this is forever, but like right now the job market is like you need to know somebody to actually sometimes even get in for an
yes.
interview because there's thousands of applicants and you're just like, a name on a paper for them.
Hmm. Yeah, the market feels quite a bit oversaturated because, we have like UBC, SFU, and BCIT and
Mm-hmm.
smaller colleges, and they're like pumping out hundreds of grads like every year that need to go somewhere, so it's a very, very competitive at a junior level. So it's a tough time to be finding a junior position.
Yeah, even with the degree, like one of the reasons why I wanted to do it was because they changed the name now. Now it's not like a BTech, it's a Bachelor of Applied Science and Computer Science. So
Okay.
it's like sort of equivalent to the other schools now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I feel like that's also what's bringing in more competition.
Yeah, yeah. I guess now it's like, yeah, you know what? Finding a job right now is really tough, especially for junior positions. Let's get a solid degree and kind of try for something a little bit more interesting. So smart
Yeah.
play, fair enough. Um, yeah, that is really interesting. I had a question in mind, but it kind of slipped my brain because I started thinking about something else. Um, yeah, like I mean, I kind of posited that as a potential reason for you to do the bachelor, but is there any other reasons why you decided to do the bachelor specifically?
Um, my last internship, it was supposed to last 8 months and I left a little bit early. And I mean, there were like many reasons, but amongst a few were like, I felt like I was working really late hours to finish tasks that weren't that tough. Now that I think about it, like I felt like if I knew a little bit about this beforehand, I could have probably finished it within like a couple days instead of like, taking longer. And I felt like it was just probably a lack of understanding And, you know, going through the degree and everything, I feel like it'll allow me to do more hardcore projects or something. And I know that there's personal projects people may like debate, you know, like, oh, you can do this on your by yourself and you don't need to pay for school for this. But there is, you know, I just feel like that incentive that you can get a degree at the end of like doing all these projects and
Hmm.
getting some instructors to reteach you some things or teach you new things. Um, and I just felt like that internship was sort of, you know, uh, a point where it told me like, you know, maybe it's time to step back a little bit and understand a little bit more and then get back into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess that makes sense because if you just do your projects, look, you have something to show for. But if you do the same projects through a bachelor degree, then you also have a degree at the end. So that kind of
Yeah.
gives you a little bit
There's like,
more. Yeah.
yeah, two birds with one stone, you know.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I felt like it was just better. And then because they've changed the name, it's sort of known everywhere now. So like I don't like I'm not saying I don't want to stay in BC, but like now I can apply elsewhere, maybe even outside the country, and it might be recognized.
Okay. So I guess BCIT is like trying to upgrade their game, go from
Yeah,
from an
yeah.
institute to something a bit of a closer
You
resembling a
you
university.
you'd be surprised to see how many international students we have now.
Hmm.
It's full of them, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's good. It's growing, but I feel like there's gonna be so much more competition now.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe the initial idea was that people from abroad, they come in, they get an education, they return and they apply it. But I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that is happening now is like people come here to get an education, then they get a job here and then they stay. So that's like
Yes,
it
yeah.
also puts pressure on our markets and on on this other grads. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm really happy that I don't have to do job hunting for a junior position right now. I can tell you that much.
I know. There's just so many of us out there, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. But judging by what you have said about having to pick up a lot of slack for your lazy teammates and organizing the club and everything, you have a lot of willingness to go the extra mile. So I think you're not gonna have too many problems finding it because let me tell you, like finding good candidates is really difficult these days. I think also because of the sheer volume of people applying, there's this HR fatigue. You just get
Mm-hmm.
bombarded with these typical resumes and they all kind of list the same skills and it's really impossible to pick.
Like
uh
a personality out of them, you know, like
yeah.
because they're all like they all have everything, but it's hard to pick and choose.
Yeah.
I think when I got my internship that I was doing, I had traveled all the way to UBC, their career fair, and that's where I had met my manager. And you know, it wasn't like I had anything special. I had everything the same. Like now that you brought it up, I think about it. I think it's like when he had a conversation with me, he thought I would be a good fit for the team.
Hmm.
And you know, when I left, he was like, "We'd love to have you back." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to come back with all this stress that was going on within the company and everything." But I
Hmm.
was like, you know, maybe that's sort of why he opted for me, because he saw that there was like, you know, a person that was able to actually talk rather than just like, you know, piece of
Yeah.
paper with
Yeah.
skills on it.
Which creates also, there's this other side to it, right? With all the automated applicant management systems, and now they're like heavily trying to leverage AI to like look for keywords, and instead of just scanning for keywords, they're trying to probably, I don't know exactly how they work, but I imagine it's getting integrated in their left, right, and center. And
Mm-hmm.
e- among all of the different resumes, if you can have a personal communication with somebody face to face, you can make a personal impression that can drastically sway your chances. But in order to achieve even that, you kind of have to finagle your way around the AI and make sure that your resume actually gets seen and all that. So it's just throwing so many new obstacles in the way of people applying for jobs these days. So yeah, like usually for my mentorship, if people ask me the things about hiring, I usually say like, you know what? I haven't been doing it for a while. I can only speak from my perspective of a person that is hiring, but the rest of
Mm-hmm.
it changed so much. Before, you go talk to somebody, you kind of communicate, you shake hands, and if they like you, then something happens. Now
Yeah.
it's an entirely different story. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, making everything virtual did make things easier for I guess, in the long run, but now it's just made it difficult for the job seekers
Mm-hmm.
because now there's so much more we have to prove for, employers to hire us. Again, it's just because there's so many people with the same skill set, and
Yeah.
there's just a growing population.
Yeah. So I guess the other, like, if you have the propensity for business, you can probably look into, instead of trying to get hired for somebody else, is like try to, apply your skills and build your own business, because then, you can definitely hire yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
You
mean,
have a job for there for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like it's a different skill set on the business end of it, that if you have that, that's great. Because like I personally can't say that I really have that. I'm so preoccupied with engineering problems and
Hmm.
solutions that business, whatever, I never pay attention to it. But you cannot do that if you actually plan on running one, because you're
Yeah.
you're gonna fail. So I essentially have to work for other people.
Exactly. Also, like to open a business, you need a good idea
Hmm.
as well, because, at least with jobs, it's like everything's already established and
Yeah.
you're going from there. But now then you have to start from scratch and you have to go from there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I know how hard that is, because, my dad opened his own company back when I was in high school and I helped out with the entire startup process. And it took so many hours, and you don't even realize you're spending like long nights working to make these small things that are now coming in use for the company.
Yeah, yeah. But now that, see, that's a cool thing too, because you have the exposure to that side of business, and you can understand some problems that the business may have, and maybe some of
Hmm.
those problems could be solved with technology with not that much effort. And there's the opportunity to create some product that other people in the same domain might probably use, right? So there's always these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that isn't that like how Google and like Microsoft started off as well, like, in garages, and then now they're these big ass companies.
Yes, yes, a garage and a sizable investment from their very rich family.
True, true. We can't forget that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how, like you mentioned that you went for, how many internships did you have while you were there?
I did two.
Two.
So, the first one was like not as good, but it was definitely like a start into the industry, I guess you could say, and it was web based,
Hmm.
because there's just so many of those now. And basically, I started off with that company because they had no tech people anymore. They let go of all their developers, which I feel like is like a really big mistake for a company to do, because like
Yeah.
if their entire company was based on an app, and like if you let go of your tech leads, then you're basically stuck. So now they had all these bugs in their app and stuff, and they needed somebody to get back into it and help them out with these. And again, I was also a student and I was really ambitious and I was desperate for experience. So I sort of opted for it. And I guess it took why I said it wasn't like the best was because they had no documentation. And like, like all these things, it made me understand, like, because they talk about these at BCIT, like, oh, documentation is really important and communication is really important. And I actually understood it when I did these internships, because my first one, there was no documentation. It took me a month to even get the app locally running. And it was a whole process, but then I was able to make some progress by the end of it, and before I left they were decently happy. And then that experience is sort of got what got me my second internship.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's usually the case. Like everyone understands the importance of documentation. It's just nobody really has resources to. Maybe they have the resources to write it, but writing it is only like a tiny upfront
Hmm.
part. It's just maintaining it and making sure it's up to date and it's correct and it matches what's actually happening. That's the massive task that nobody really has any appetites for.
Ex- exactly.
So
And
everyone,
it's not
yeah, everyone starts with the good intention of having it, and in the end, we all know how it turns out.
exactly like my second company had great documentation and stuff, and then because of the updations I was making to their code base, I also had to put in like documentation, and it's not the best job. I mean, it's very bland, and it's like writing things that are very obvious to you but may not be to the other person. and just updating it and going through it. It's a very tedious job, but again, I recognize its importance in that first internship because otherwise you're going in blind and you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that one you found through BCIT is its own placement, or did you have to do some legwork to get that one as well?
Legwork, yeah. I mean, of course, BCIT has like resources, like they have co-op opportunities and stuff, but like those co-op opportunities are also open to other schools. So then you're sort of, again, you're,
Competing.
yeah, exactly, a name and a bunch of pieces of paper, and then you have to figure out what you need.
Okay. So like you did the first were they back to back in terms of internships?
Yeah, I sort of played around with my schedule a little bit at BCIT. So I took like an extra term, but that was partially because I switched my option. So that's how the courses sort of played out. So I my first internship was from July to October, and then I took about like a month break, and then I started the other one from January until May. It was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to last until August, but yeah, I left in May.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. I see. Well, I think that both of those, it sounds like they were frustrating but valuable. So I think it all worked
Yeah,
out well in the end.
I feel like, I mean, a bunch of others can probably relate to this who've had internship experience, that like the first one is not the best internship that you'll have, and like once you have that experience you're able to go for the better options. I mean, that's what I've heard from like peers and like seniors, if you may call it. Like, I was asking one of my friends who's done the BTech, and she's like, she's done about 4 internships, and she's like, yeah, my first and I think her second one as well were not up to her standards. And once she had that experience, though, she was able to show it in her other internships and get a company that was a better fit.
Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe if you were to give a bit of advice for somebody who's, let's say, just wrapping up their year one and they're heading into their year two, in like, so, because when I did it, like the internships, they weren't really mandatory. To be honest with you, I didn't even think that I knew that they existed.
Yeah, no, they're not mandatory. I did these out because I wanted to do them and get the experience. But yeah, but they do have a co-op thing now. I'm not sure if they did back
Mm.
then, where you needed a certain GPA and then you do an 8-month internship.
Do they count for any type of credit or not
Yeah,
really?
they do. The co-ops do.
Oh, the
Yeah.
co-ops do, but your internships that you did, it was just for your own benefit, basically.
Yes. Yeah, for
Okay.
my own benefit.
So was it like you did the 2 years at BCIT and then you did the internships, or you did them in between?
My first one was during my third semester.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing courses and I was doing my internship alongside. Yeah, yeah, that was a lot. So again, I don't I if I were to give advice, don't do what I did. Don't don't do courses and then do full-time work. It doesn't work out. And then I did the mistake again where I had 3 courses and I was doing full-time work
Mm-hmm.
um for my other second internship. But my plan was originally that I was going to stick with my other option. So I would have January to August free and then I would just be working. But yeah, it never happened that way.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, folks, BCIT is really intense and tough, and I marvel at the fact that you managed to even do one combining both. I mean, granted, well, the first year for me personally, because I kind of had the background and I knew a bunch already, which didn't really serve me too well because I kind of had this attitude, like, oh yeah, I already know this stuff, and I was kind of being a little more relaxed than I should have been. So when the second
Mm-hmm.
year hit, I was not prepared. Like I did not develop the discipline during the first year to kind of hold on to that. But I don't know, that's just my personal thing. But yeah, like there's barely any time to relax, let
Yes.
alone
Yeah.
do full-time work on a project that you don't even get a credit for. So, massive props to you for
Exactly.
doing that.
No, yeah, and like, we hear about it from like because I volunteered at this event at school, like those expos for
Mm,
the programs at BCIT,
yeah.
and it was so funny. Like, I had like two of these weird questions. These high school students came by and they were like, "So, like, what's the party life here?" I'm like, "There's no
There's
party
no
life
party
at
life, guys.
BCIT." They're like, there's dorm rooms. I'm like, "Yeah, you don't see anybody here partying."
Yeah.
at all. Everyone's probably studying very, very late.
Yeah,
And then they
well,
asked,
yeah. My spouse went to BCIT for accounting and she lived out on campus. So they did have a
yeah,
dorm room and I think they did like play board games, but I think their course probably wasn't as intense as ours. But
right.
for CST, it's just forget about it. Like there's no parties. If you make your impressions of college life based on American feature films,
Mm-hmm.
that is not happening there.
No,
These aren't the
no.
courses you're looking for.
Because I mean, if you think about it, we're doing like 120 credits, which is basically a 4-year degree in
In
two
2 years,
years.
yeah.
So it's like 4 years cramped into two. You're bound to. I mean, I think it's expected that you have no time to do
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
else. And do make use of your summer breaks. I almost never did that. Like make use in the sense that relax. I always ended up doing something else, like taking on an internship or doing something that required more like
Mm-hmm.
brain effort.
Yeah.
And I think when they say they give you 3 months off, take those 3 months off and try not to do anything because it really hits you once you start school again in September.
Yeah, yeah. I think so it's an interesting thing because um I still needed to confirm my like English levels in order to get accepted into the school because I didn't have English 12 from Canada, so there was that whole thing and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't finish it in time for the September intake, so I had to do the January intake. And January
Mm.
intake is basically you work through the entire summer and then you get maybe like a week off and then the second year starts right away. So for me it was even more compressed. Maybe that's why it was even crazier than
Oh,
what you
really?
did. Yeah.
So wait, you do January to basically all the way till
All the way
August?
till August for the first year, and then you start the second year like September right away.
Oh no, I started in January as well, and now they've changed it up. So now it's January to May because you have a 5-week project
Mm.
term,
Hmm.
and then you get 3 months off.
Oh, okay.
And then you do September to December, January to May, and then that last September to December
Okay.
term.
So they shifted it quite a bit it seems because normal program was like September to May and then another September to May and you were done. And then
Yeah.
January to 2nd May would be like the accelerated one. And funnily enough, the GPAs for January intake were like 1.5 percentage points higher than the ones of the normal one. And we kind of were joking. It's like we didn't really get a chance to relax. So when the second year started, we just kept on going, same kind of energy. But people who had the summer off, they were, taking some time and be like, oh man, I have to start studying again. This is so hard.
Yeah, but no, that's really interesting. And I feel like, I mean, I know it's super stressful, but I feel like that's sort of a better way to go about the program when you finish faster as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because yeah, so you don't have to spend an extra 3 months like technically not doing anything.
yeah, yeah.
Because it's even hard to find work in 3 months
In
because
three
no one
months,
hires.
you can't really find anything reasonable. Most companies,
Yeah,
it's like it'll take us 3 months just to onboard you, and then you're gone, right? So there's no
exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I noticed that like I didn't understand why people said like it takes about 3 months for you to get adjusted within a company. And when I started working, I was like, yeah, no, I get it because it takes you the first month to understand the technology and then the team and then what you're doing.
and then
And yeah,
internal slang and language and all the terminology that they use and all the abbreviations that they use that makes literally no sense to anybody outside. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I felt like what your program did back then seemed like a better time, a better use of time,
yeah.
even though it was probably very exhausting.
It was. And yeah, but no, it was great. As I said, I'm like trying to remember things from it, and all I get is like these short little flashbacks. And like when I think about it, it's like I don't even get like full blown video. I get like photographs of what was happening. So it's just completely gone.
How long ago did you do it?
I graduated, I believe, around 2004. So that was
2000 and oh,
20 years
okay.
ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a while ago. I was not even in school
Yeah,
back then.
yeah. They probably changed a bunch of things since then, but I haven't really kept touch. I think we did like a few reunions some way through, but not recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think CST for me is like still fresh in my mind because I mean it just happened, but I don't think I can forget it though. The amount of, pressure that I've been through, I don't think I can forget it. Maybe we'll see in a
Yeah.
couple years when it's been 20 years for me doing the program.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So are you excited about your bachelor's? Have you planned out like what you want to be working on? Is the bachelor's you don't have to like defend the thesis or anything. It's just more of an upgrade. Is that right?
I think they did try doing like a thesis thing, because I was talking to my friend once again who did the bachelor's already, and she's like, they have to do a major project, which is like a thesis in a way. They have to give a whole proposal, get it
Hmm.
approved by the board,
Yeah.
and then they have to present their
But
project
it's
and get
not
that
like
approved.
you have to write like a PhD level paper or anything like
Oh
that.
no, I don't think so. I hope not. I
Yeah.
don't think so. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's an upgrade from the B Tech though.
Hmm.
They've also introduced like calculus. I don't think we had, yeah. Um a- and like they've been doing like a bunch of things that the other schools give in their degrees.
Mm.
Um yeah. I mean it's a bit of a change, and they're making us do ethics and stuff. But probably you probably had to do that back then as well.
Ethics. I don't think that we have. Well, not. I didn't do B Tech, so that's why.
No,
Yeah.
even in
Oh,
CST,
even
they
in
made us do an
CST.
ethics course now. Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of makes sense. It does. It does make a lot of sense. I think 20 years ago, the profile of the industry was different. The profile of online security and what exposure of your data means to you was very, very different. And
Mm-hmm.
now with the advent of AI, uh, as much as it is an ethical thing or not, but it's a good thing to have, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. You know, so that's interesting. That's really cool that they're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a little odd for us as students to take that course because like everything at BCIT, like all the courses we do throughout the semester, they sort of interlink somehow. Like, we're learning this thing and because it matters over here, but
Hmm.
that ethics course was just sort of out of the blue, and we're
Mm.
like, it was sort of, because we have such hectic like schedules, it was like, why do we have to go here?
Yeah.
But I'm sure if we had the time,
Mm.
it was a much
Yeah.
more, understanding course.
Did they make you take the gym class?
The gym class?
Yes.
No,
They made us
there was
in,
a
in,
gym.
in year one they actually made us take the gym class for credit and attendance was mandatory.
Like
Because
a physical education
physical,
class?
yes. You can pick your activities, but they basically said since you guys are going to be spending most of your time in front of a computer, it would do you good to have some physical activity thrown in there in a mix. And I believe it was worth a couple of credits, and then they would take attendance, so you had to go. But you could pick between
Okay.
like you could play badminton, ping pong, you can do climbing, you can do a bunch of things, and they didn't force you to do anything specific. It's just like go to the gym, be active for an hour, shake it up a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish they did this now because it's now all we do is like work in a library or in our classrooms or at home. That's
Yeah.
all we're doing.
So I
That gym
yeah,
class would have been helpful.
I ended up going for the climbing wall and
Oh,
I enjoyed it so much. I think they probably still have it. It's like near the squash
yeah.
court. So
Yeah,
I
they do.
I ended up working at that climbing wall during my second year because that gave me the ability to go there and climb for free whenever I wanted.
Mm.
And I also had to join the union because it's like a union job to work at the climbing wall. And one time, the union was basically picketing because of pay, obviously, because that's all they do.
Hmm.
And they said, "Hey, how would you like to get half of the minimum? Because you get half for picketing, half your wage. So it's like, how would you like to
Right.
get half of minimum wage for picketing? I'm like, you guys are nuts. I have exams. I have to go and study. What the hell are you talking about? You can picket all you want, but I still had my the union card somewhere. It's like paying dues and stuff. But I was also getting paid a little salary when I was working there, so that was kind of neat.
No, that's pretty cool. I was like looking into like because I throughout CST I've always done a part-time job. I kept the one that I did throughout high school, which was working at a public library, and it just felt like it was just too much on top of everything that we had to do, and I wanted to leave it, but I didn't until I got my second internship.
Hmm.
And then now I don't have anything in the degree when I'm going in, and I'm like, this is going to be such an awesome semester because even in the degree, we only have four or five courses, whereas in CST we've always had to deal with seven 6, 7, sometimes even 8, I think.
Yeah,
I can't
I
remember.
can't remember either.
But yeah, but like, I was like looking into jobs, and that seems like a pretty cool campus job to have.
Yeah, no, it was really cool because like you get the entire gym access. I wasn't really leveraging that, but I was spending a lot of time at that climbing wall, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I haven't really done any climbing in a long time since then, so that's unfortunate. But you gotta pick
Was
pick
there
your
like,
priorities.
because like, what if you don't know how to climb? Did they give you like training and
Oh,
stuff, or
so
is
in
it?
the first year, I was just going there, and they had an instructor, which I believe he was teaching electronics, and he was also working at the climbing wall. So he was like one of the instructors. He was
Oh,
like a
I see.
teacher, and also he worked at the gym for fun. So he would be there to kind of teach you the basics and do everything. And then I did my test for, belaying and everything. I got my card saying that I could like do this. I know all the safety procedures and everything, which I probably
Mm-hmm.
don't really remember that much right now. Like tying the knots, like how to put harnesses on people, all that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
like they gave you a test where, somebody they would climb up and then like pretend to fall, like drop, and you're supposed to catch them, like do all these things. And once you
Right.
have your certificate, you're just like, yeah, go out. If people come in, get their ID, give them their shoes, and harness them and like get them up and down until they get tired and leave. So that was a pretty good job. I could kind of sit there and maybe do a little bit of work for my homework if no one was around. If people came in, I
Mm-hmm.
would help them have fun. And on the days that when I wasn't working, I was free to kind of come in and just climb by my own or with somebody. So that was
Yeah.
pretty nice.
No, that seems like an awesome experience. I'm gonna try it next term.
Yeah, yeah, you should. You should definitely stop by because for students, I don't know what it costs now, but back then it was like something like $2 for a climbing
Mm-hmm.
session with the rental of the harness and shoes. So it was just like no brainer, excellent deal. So
Grab a toonie,
yeah,
go.
yeah. Even if it costs a fiver now, if you go to Hive or something like that, it's probably gonna cost you 30 or 40. So it's still
Yeah.
very much worth it, and it's a really great workout
Yeah. I feel like we sort of underestimate the things that BCIT has for like leisure activities.
because they
We
don't
have
give
like,
you
yeah.
any time to enjoy any of
Well,
it.
true, there's that. Yeah. I always go by the rec center area, and I'm like, it just seems like so much fun, but I'm literally passing by to go to the library.
Yeah, yeah. I think for people out there who are studying, I think that if you do get a chance, or actually like make time to go there and work out, because it definitely helps to clear your head, and it's enough
Mm-hmm.
of a different thing to do where you can just disconnect from all of the software related things that you're thinking about and give it an opportunity to kind of settle in your brain. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I spend most of my time in front of a computer, which is not ideal. So
Mm-hmm.
having extra physical activity is definitely a plus.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's been a very interesting conversation. I hope the people who are watching will get something out of it. And I'm kind of hoping that, once you start your program, maybe we can do another round and catch up, and you can kind of tell us about your experiences with the new Bachelor thing and
Yeah.
how that's going. I think that's going to be pretty interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to come back and talk about the program, and hopefully, have better things to say. And then CST, because right now the schedule seems really open, so let's see how it is. But yeah, no, it was great being here. Thank you for having this conversation with me. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And, for everyone who's watching, we're glad that you're still with us, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much and
Sounds good.
have a great day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.